So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about chalkboard art. It's super popular, and this is the #1 thing I hear people say, I can't do it, I can't do it. So tonight is not so much about a finished project as it is about just learning a few techniques on doodling and, you know, improving your skills on that so that you can create these chalkboard art pieces. And I'm also going to give you a few tips on how to fake some things so that you can make it appear as if you have, you know, hand drawn some of these elements. So you don't need to be an artist to complete this. So are you guys ready to get started? Like I said, we're just going to kind of jump right on in. I see the numbers are going up, so people are logging in now, but let me see here. And it might just be an intimate class. I know that a lot of people have a lot of things going on right now, so we'll just do it and then can catch the recording. Okay, so it's not necessarily that I'm going to do this project tonight. I'm going to do something else, but I wanted this to kind of help you guys visualize a little bit about where I'm going with tonight's class. Tonight I'm going to start out, I'm going to put this where I can actually physically see it as a reference. But tonight my project is going to be on this frame. And I picked this frame up at a dollar store. It was inexpensive. It was like maybe $5. Your writing has never, your drawing has never improved since you were 5. You can do this. I swear to you, you can do this. So anyway, I picked up this inexpensive frame. It's plastic, but it's gold. Gold is super trendy in home decor right now. It's a little brassier than I probably would have liked. So you can, if that's the case with you, you can always alter it. You can spray it with spray paint to give it a different color. But I'm going to stick with this color for me, for the purpose of what I'm trying to do tonight. So what we're going to do is I'm going to remove the glass from this frame and try not to pop my nail off. So I'm going to just use my scissors here. I think these chalkboards will make awesome gifts for the holidays. If you're looking for something to give away that's homemade, I think that these are great, especially with an inspirational quote or a Bible scripture on it. You know, everyone I show these to, they always love them. So I think it's going to be a fun gift idea this holiday season. And you can really get as expensive as you want or as inexpensive as you want, depending on the type of frame that you use. You could always do this on canvas as well. So I'm just going to take this back and I'm going to put it to the side because I can use it later. I'm probably going to peel this off. So nobody wants to know how much I paid for it. But these frames were like $3 or under $5, around $3 to $5, depending on the size. And then I'm going to remove the fake photo that's inside and the glass. Be careful not to cut yourself and don't break the glass. Okay, and then I'm going to put the frame to the side and we're going to use it at the end of the show. Now, you don't need this piece, but you could always keep this piece and only do your chalkboard here so that your photo is matted, and then you could cover this with a decorative scrapbook paper and then maybe fill it up with some flowers or something like that and alter this. So there's always options. Yeah, well, like I said, it's a very inexpensive frame, but it was $5, and I have found that I did this project once before on a piece of that artist board, but I had a hard time finding a frame for it. So I just said, well, let's just cut to the chase and just use the frame. Just use the glass out of the frame, and I actually like this better. So you can keep the mat, like I said, you could cover it with scrapbook paper and really change the look of it, or, you know, toss it, do whatever you want to do with it. But first we need to create our chalkboard. So what I've done here is I have chalkboard paint this is from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft. This is their chalkboard paint. There's also, I think Plaid makes a chalkboard paint that's meant for glass. I prefer the Faber-Castell paint. I just really like this type of paint. I've used the others, and they're okay if that's what you have access to. But I will tell you this, because this project is not going to be put through a dishwasher or anything. When you use the glass paint, sometimes the glass paint will tell you that it needs to be baked. As long as you don't plan to wash it, there's no need to bake it. So I'm just going to take, this is a 2-inch brush, and it's just a really inexpensive brush. It's got nylon bristles on it, and I'm just going to paint this glass up with this brush. Now the first coat, it doesn't matter you know, how you get it on there. Just get a really decent coating on this glass. And it's going to kind of bubble up a little bit. That's okay. Don't worry about that. It'll clean itself up before it's over. But we're going to put a really generous coat of this onto the glass. And try not to splatter it all over the place. You could use a foam brush if you wanted to. The foam brushes do soak up the product, so be careful with that. And the wider the brush, the less little the less streaks you'll have, because obviously the brush will be, you know, it'll be covering a wider surface. Now, like I said, you'll see some bubbling happening here. Let it go. Just let it go. And all I'm doing is in one direction only. I'm pushing that paint to the side. Now I'm going to allow this first coat to dry for just a few minutes. It doesn't take long. Resist the temptation of using your heat gun. You can, but I would resist it. You're going to let this dry completely, and it only takes a few minutes. And then once it's dried completely, you're going to add another coat. Then you're going to let it dry completely, and you're going to add another coat. And then you're going to let it dry completely, and you're going to add another coat. So you want to finish off with about 5 coats of paint. And like I said, you want it to all go in one direction. Maybe if you go this way on the first coat, maybe go this way on the second coat. Okay? Don't drag back and forth like this, because it will lift the paint as you go across. So you want to make sure that you're doing nice even strokes. And like I said, you're going to see some bubbling happening. You can kind of see it a little bit. I don't know if you can see it in video, but there's a little bit of bubbling that's going on in here. That's okay. That's why we're going to do several coats of this before... why did the camera not focus? We're going to do several coats of this paint before we begin our chalk process. So does anybody have any questions on how the paint goes on? I say 4 to 5 coats. Here's the trick too. Allow this to completely dry before you add chalk. You want to allow it to completely dry overnight and cure. I don't know if that's a 100% tried and true step or not, but here's my theory on this. The more coats of paint you put down, the less likely you are to lift the paint whenever you go to erase on the chalkboard. Okay? The Faber-Castell chalkboard is a very high grade chalkboard paint. But I just found that if I added several coats, I eliminated my brush strokes. I eliminated a lot of this bubbling that's happening on the first coat of the glass. Especially with glass, because it's such a slick surface and it isn't porous. I find that I just do a lot better if I allow it to dry completely between each coat and I add 4 to 5 coats. Okay? So now I'm going to put this to the side because I have done all of this work for you. You know how to paint it now. So I'm gonna excuse me for a minute. I'm gonna come out of frame for just a few moments while I move this over to my other surface over here so it's out of the way. And now let's talk about practicing so that Julie can get better with her handwriting. Was it Julie? Okay, this is the best advice I can give you. Do you remember when you were in kindergarten and your teacher brought out the handbook, the little lined pad, and it said practicing your lettering? Well, that really is the best way to get really good If I was doing this on a canvas, how many coats would you need? I would still apply 4 coats, at least 4 coats of paint. If I was doing this on a canvas, I would still apply about 4 coats of paint. I really would. And the reason is because, I'm sorry guys, there was a question came in, but the reason is because if you are going to use this like a true, tried and true chalkboard, then you are going to erase, like you're going to use, you know, if you're going to try to erase something off of it, you know how many times I have taken this chalkboard and erased it over and over and over again to rebuild something, because this is my idea board. I just find that I like it with 4 coats of paint. I mean, it isn't necessary. You know, you might be able to get through with 2 to 3, but I just really feel like 4 coats is the minimum that I feel comfortable with. And I would do that regardless of whose product it is. I don't care what they say. I just have found that it helps to eliminate the bubbling. It helps to eliminate the streaks that you find with the paint brushes and things. And it just gives it a good solid coating. Now the other trick, I can't stress this enough, always make sure you allow it to dry and cure overnight. So did that answer that question? And also canvases have a texture to them, and the first one I ever did had that texture, and I wasn't happy with it. I just did not like that my chalk didn't look right on that surface. So I was looking for alternate places or alternate things to do. Now I noticed that there is some wooden canvases, and I think those would be really cool too. Remember that chalkboard paint has the same properties in it that gesso has. So it will soak into the wood, but it also primes the wood. So if you're using wood, you may not have to go with this many, but you know what? Just trial and error. Do whatever it is that is comfortable for you. I've done about 3 or 4 of these now, and I can tell you that my favorite surfaces are the slick surfaces. That's just my feeling. If I'm going to use chalk, my favorite surface is a slick surface. Now you could also go to a home improvement store and purchase some of that clipboard. It's the same boarding that they use on clipboards, but it has like this coating on top of it. That is also a really nice surface, and you can even have the guys at Lowe's cut it to fit your frames if you wanted to. So there's another option as well. But everything I use tonight you can find in your local markets, so that's why there was no kit. I wanted this to be something that you could do for a holiday gift idea that would be super affordable. So let's talk about handwriting now. I highly recommend going back to kindergarten, 1st grade, and go into like the children's section and get one of these sketch pads. This is just one of those Need Learning to Write pads. And the reason I like to use these to practice on is because they have a grid, a handwriting grid. I don't know if you guys can see it in the camera. See if I can get it where you can see it. You guys are familiar with it. It's got the 2 lines and the dotted lines. And I'll be honest with you, it's all about penmanship. That's really what makes these chalkboards look really great. And the better, you will become better at penmanship whenever you practice. It's practice, practice, practice. I wasn't always really good at it either. In fact, I held out on doing chalkboards because I thought my handwriting was horrible. But remember that you are your worst critic, so keep that in mind. Another option that you have available to you is to get stencils that have alphabet sets and things like that on them that you like. Print out font families off of your computer. Like what I like to do is, if you look at my notice from tonight, my Ustream notice, I use several different styles of fonts. Go into their font libraries and print those out and practice. Put them down like you see here, like you see this, and then just practice. So like, for example, if I wanted to learn how to write this style of lettering, I would just take this pad and look at how the structure of the letters are. Another thing that's really helpful is to get a little thin, this was $2 I think at Walmart, a little thin T-square ruler that you can move up and down your straight edge like this, and it'll help keep your lines really straight. I think the reason most people don't like their handwriting is because it's not straight, and the lettering isn't the same consistency. So for example, if I wanted to write, let's just say, the word paused, because that's one of the words we're going to do tonight, and I wanted to follow this style, I would take a look at how long or how big of a placing do I have for that word, and I'm going to take and practice writing those letter shapes out until they're consistent. And once you have it consistently on the pad, it will be so much easier for you to draw on the paper. Does that help you, Julie? So we're going to say pause. Now I have to decide, do I want everything to be lowercase or uppercase? So let's just say in this case I want to do lowercase. So I'm going to do P, A, and notice that I'm starting and stopping right on that line. And I'm using my ruler to make sure I don't extend past that line. So it's going to help to keep my letters consistent. And let me see if I can find a bolder pen up here for you guys. Well, another thing you want to pay attention to on these lines is that, see, there's a couple of dashes here, like this. Let me see if I can make them a little darker for you guys. You want to make sure your letters are measured in that space as well. So if I go to the outside of one of those dots, maybe go to the outside of the next dot over to finish off the letter. Okay? So that will keep all of your writing even. Okay? So now let's talk about how we're going to get these little scrolly letters and things like that, because we don't have a sample right here. This is what I do. I kind of look at my space. Whenever I'm thinking about my chalkboard, I'm going to write out, just on a piece of scratch paper, write out what I want it to say. So in this case, it's going to be, and I'm not going to be real specific about it, but I'm going to say, she paused to give thanks for her blessings. That's the quote I want to use. Okay? So with that in mind, I'm going to pick out which of these words is the focal words for my chalkboard. And I think my biggest one is going to be the word she. I really want that one to be big. And I want thanks to be big. And I want blessings to be big. Okay? So then that tells me where the priority needs to be on my chalkboard. You following me? So what I'm trying to do here is now I'm going to emphasize, well, what is the most important word that I have here? And I think I want to call attention the most to the word thanks. Because it is Thanksgiving, it is the hot, that's kind of the theme I'm going for, is the thankfulness, the gratefulness. So that's going to be the piece that's going to have the most artistic elements around it. Okay, so that's how I'm going to break out my saying. Then I'm also going to look at words that are small words. So then my small words in this are going to be the 2 and the 4, F-O-R. Okay, those are going to have these little swirlies around them, but they're going to be very small. They're not going to have as much priority on the chalkboard as the other letters. So we're going to talk about the letter 2. Now, a good thing to do is I have on my Pinterest account, I have pinned a ton of chalkboard ideas. So what I will typically do is go back to that Pinterest board and look at how small words are emphasized on other people's chalkboards that I like. So I noticed that a lot of them have these cutesy little swirlies around them, kind of like an S curve. You guys, I don't even know if you can see that. Let me see if I can find a darker, let me go see if I can find a darker pen, a Sharpie or something. Because I don't think you guys can see what I'm writing. I could be wrong. I have a gold Sharpie. We'll do it here. So, can you see that better? Yes. I think I'm on there as Tonya Gibbs, but if you go to my website, I have at the top, I have follow me buttons, so you can click on that and find me there, like that. It's I'm not really sure. So if you go to my website, I have a link there where you can find me. Everything's linked up. So then I'm going to sit here on this board and I'm going to doodle or practice doing these little S. And basically that's what it is. It's just a sideways S. Okay? And you know what? You don't have to necessarily follow me to get these ideas. You can just do a search for chalkboard, Pinterest. It'll come up with all kinds of things. There's some awesome fonts in there too for chalkboards. And I just say find something that you like and just sit and doodle until you've duplicated it. Because I really think that that's the key to all of this, is just making sure your spacing is even and you're consistent with how you draw things. See, the more I do them, the better they get. And I think moving quick also helps. When you move really slow, I think sometimes it causes it to be a little more difficult to stay consistent. Okay, so I've also found some other tools that might help you guys. If you don't feel comfortable with your handwriting, then what you could do is also pull out some of your fonts on your computer, and I recommend either pulling up, I have Photoshop, and if you have a Photoshop suite, one of the Photoshop suites, you could do it in Elements or either one of them. But just practicing with putting a bunch of different fonts, just breaking up different things, giving hierarchy to certain words. Like when we broke out our phrase here and we saw that we wanted an emphasis on the word she, and we wanted an emphasis on the word thanks, and then we wanted the emphasis on blessing. So now I'm going to go back to my font library and I'm going to look on my computer and see which words need to be done which way. And like I said, I want to really call attention to thanks. So maybe thanks needs to be sketched as a banner. Okay, so that really puts an emphasis on that. And then I might actually want to make blessings, because it's pretty big, to be script. So let's play with some scripting. Let me go back to this marker. It's a little thicker. And I'm just going to doodle it out a couple of times and just really try and keep my letter spacing very consistent. And I may not like that one, so I'm going to write it again. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but the more you write a word, the better you get at it. Like your name, for example. You write it 1,000 times a day. Sometimes it looks sloppy, sometimes it looks great. But when you're trying to make it look great, you know, you can. So I really think consistency is really about just, you know, trying and practicing and doing some things like that. Now another option, another cheat that I have for you guys is I found these templates. These are made by Hot Off the Press, and these are just little banners. I had a hard time drawing banners. I wasn't really great at it. So if you can't find this Hot Off the Press template, what you can do is what you could do is, if you have a silhouette or a Cricut, you could download or, you know, cut out of a piece of cardstock this banner shape and then use it as a template. See how cool that looks? And I did not freehand that. All I did was trace it out from this template. Now this is called it's from Hot Off the Press, and it's called Layered Ribbon Banners, and the number on it is HOTP 7408. You can also print these out on the computer and cut them out, and like I said, if you use a heavyweight cardstock or chipboard to cut them, then it's easy to use as a template. But yes, you could print them out on cardstock and cut them out and use those. Another little thing I found in my arsenal that I use a lot is this. This is made by Paper Pizzazz, and it's called Swirly Doodles, and the number is HOTP 7326. And this one is a bunch of swirls. Let me change pads here, change papers here. This one is a bunch of swirls, but what I like about it is, like, for example, on this swirl right here, if I chose to do this particular swirl, it tells me to trace F. So I gotta find F. F is down here. So you're gonna trace F. Okay, then you're going to come back and fill in where the holes didn't finish, and then it says to trace H on the left side. So where's H? H is up here, but on the left side. So that means pull it over here so that it's on this side of that circle. Hang on. So we're going to go from here to here. And then it says to trace E without the dots. So we're going to come over here to E. And it's going to kind of come down here. So it says trace E without the dots. So we're going to go here, here, here. Now we're going to fill in these holes, and I'm using a Sharpie and it's bleeding a little bit, but you guys get the idea. Okay, so then it says to I probably pulled it over too far. Trace E without the dots, and then rotate this template upside down 180 degrees, and then trace B, which is right here. So B is going to be, where do I put B? B is going right up here. Okay, and then that's going to finish off that and finish off that and bring that out just a little bit. And now look at this fancy smancy swirl, and I didn't even do anything. Hi, Peggy. So these little templates like this are so fun because you can build upon them and make them super fancy smancy with little or no effort. And you don't have to be great at drawing. And you know what? If you don't feel comfortable with lettering, then go cut out some alphas from your silhouette